Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, I'm Jamie. I read a ton of books. And this is the wrap-up video for October, for which I was theoretically participating in 3 events. Realistically, I kind of did 1. Scarathon was a nice idea. I don't think I looked at the prompts more than the first week. And TBR Harvest, I might go back and play the game board that Leandra put together for that in December. But I definitely didn't manage to do all 3 events justice. Mostly I just did Fablin. And I'm not really keen on overly specific prompts. Overly specific being very subjective, but I had books that I wanted to get to that did not fit prompts when I was reading them, that I couldn't log for anything. So there was a lot of reading I did in October that actually didn't count for points for anything. Some of it I was able to get to count for stuff, but I went for what I was trying to read and just got the points where I could. So, not going for MVP. I wasn't really going for MVP for September either. I got MVP, but not because that's what I was aiming for. Just it fit what I was reading a lot better. So I don't know the results for Fablin. I doubt we won because we were never really ahead any week all month that I know of. But it'll be interesting to see who won and what the breakdown was. But I finished all 5 days of Fablin. So I did manage to at least finish all of the main prompts and at least 1 or 2 extras for every day, including 1 extra that I think I logged in time for the last day. So not too shabby, just it could have been better. And I wasn't really putting together a TBR that was geared towards lots of points. Obviously, we didn't know the prompts ahead of time, so I couldn't pick books that would be BIPOC and LGBTQ+, and fit the prompts. And, I was not really in possession of a lot of books that would fit the prompts and have all those extra points. I picked my team based on, well, maybe I would read more books that have the word blood in them, in the title. Maybe I did 1. I don't remember if I actually had any that I finished that had blood in the title. So it was a nice idea. I didn't finish any that had any of the other team words in the title either, but that particular extra points thing didn't help much. So, oh well, yeah. I did get the occasional extra points though, and just not as strategically oriented as it could have been. So, anyway, it is what it is, and a lot of people were just finishing what they could. So, it's hardly the outlying approach to doing readathons lately. Everybody's getting tired. There have been a lot of readathons. And I'm actually in sprints right now, not on screen, just in the chat, on Livia's channel for her leg of day 2 of NetGalley November. So I'm doing this recording during a sprint to get my print books so that they're done so I can hand them off to my sister a week from today. So let me grab the print books. and make sure that I say what I wanted to say about any of them. I've talked about most of them before because I didn't finish a lot of print books after the last update. But in case there was anything I wanted to gush about or gripe about before they go to my sister and then maybe go away, we'll get that done. So let me grab the books. They're actually behind me. So I've been trying to set it up so that that I have books behind me, which is awkward with the layout of this room. So I do have a little teeny bookshelf. It's very narrow right there. And the top shelf of that is the ones that I finished for the month. And so I'm going to clear that off. And I am going to clear it off and leave it empty for November, even though I'm mostly doing arcs this month, because I am still going to do some non-arcs, as I think I mentioned in a previous video. Anyway, so let me grab those books, and I will be right back. All right, so you'll see that it's empty now. So, first on the stack is The Night Always Comes by Willie Vlautin, which turned out to be kind of a thriller involving a girl behaving badly and getting away with it and, standing up to the man kind of thing. Not really my favorite trope unless it's done really well. This one was just okay, but the writing wasn't bad, and I think it might be on NetGalley that I saw this author recently. It might have been at the bookstore, but I think it was an ARC, and I think it was on NetGalley. So there may be a new book coming out by this author, but if there is, I will probably mention it again, especially if I get it, because if it is an ARC on NetGalley that I'm vaguely remembering, then I probably requested it. So we'll see. But it was okay. Certainly not a bad author, just not my favorite kind of story. And it wasn't long, so that's always nice. I finished several of the number one Ladies Detective Agency series, of which I have 3 in print here. I am on book 20 now. My arc that I'd like to get to this month is book 26. So I will be finishing some more books that I have in print between now and the end of November, because I want to be caught up. When I finish that arc, I want to have finished all the books leading up to it as well, so that I'll be ready for book 27 if there is a 27. So I also finished Corduroy Mansions by the same author, by Alexander McCall Smith. It has a cute doggy on the cover. This one reminded me of the 44 Scotland Street series, but I liked the Scotland Street series better. I never connected to any of the characters in this one enough for it to be memorable. It wasn't bad, it was just kind of like a filler. Like, if you want something that just is entertaining at the time and not memorable, for me, that's what this was. And I think that's going to depend very much on who you are and your circumstances and what you can relate to. I just didn't connect to any of these characters. And maybe it's just that it's not as strong a book, or it's not as funny, because 44 Scotland Street, that whole series has a lot of humor in it, with like Bertie and his very annoying mother. Yeah, I highly recommend that series. That one's funny. But I don't know. I'll probably continue the Corduroy Mansions series. Just, I'm not rushing to get book 2. But it is the book 1 in the series. So, and then I did actually finally finish Seeing in October by Jose Saramago. I've been meaning to get to this book forever, and I really loved it. It's a 5-star. I liked it a lot more than I liked Blindness, and I liked Blindness a lot. So, probably in my top 20 books for the year. And I'm saying 20 because right now I'm sitting at 5 books away from 400 finished books for the year. So at that point, the top 20 is kind of meaningful. So it is within the top 20 for sure. So let me put these aside because I'm running out of space all around me. I'll show you. There's stacks of books to the right, stacks of books to the left. There's really nowhere to put these right next to me, so I'll be right back. Okay. Yeah, I know I've got that song stuck in my head, stuck in the middle with you. That's the clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to ignore the earworm and get back to the books. So Karla's Choice was one of the later print books I finished. I brought this one home as one of my 6 hours. So one of the books I got for working 6 hours at the bookstore. And it's by Nick Harkaway. He is actually John le Carré's son, which I did not know when I grabbed the book. I just wanted to know what was going on with Karla and if this is like the choice that Karla is making in the Russia house. I liked that. But it wasn't a bad book, it just wasn't very memorable. And I kind of wonder if I'm jumping around too much in the storyline because I've been reading the le Carré books as I find them instead of getting all of them and reading them in order. So I'm really thinking I might just start collecting decent copies of them all while I work in a used bookstore, and there's always a lot of le Carré. If I bide my time and watch for ones that are extras, I can probably assemble the series in story order, and then sometime next year or in 2027 do a read-along using my Discord and just go through them in story order and see if that helps, because I like the characters. I like George Smiley. I like Karla. I like that Harkaway is trying to flesh out Karla a little bit more. Karla, I don't remember his actual Russian name. He's known as Karla by the U.S. spies. He's like the arch enemy to George Smiley. They're pitted against each other, their minds, their wits, and their courage kind of thing. In a classic Cold War standoff. So I definitely appreciate the storyline. I just think that I'm bouncing around too much, so I'm missing some of the emotional arcs for some of these characters. So then the individual stories are falling flat because it's too hard to just automatically pick up where I kind of left off because it's all jumbled. So I don't think I'm unhauling this one. When my sister finishes it, I will be keeping it until I have that full sequence and can reread. So if anyone is interested in reading Le Carré in story order, keep that in mind, because that's something that I would like to do. Probably not towards the end of 2026 or the beginning of 2027. So you have some time to think about it and give it a shot if you want to read one and see what you think of the writing. And I will be watching for more Nick Harkaway as well, because I don't think this is the only one he wrote that's continuing the George Smiley story. So anyway, so that was good, but I think I'm missing something. I don't think it's the book on this one, or at least not just the book on this one. I finished one Killing series book, Killing Crazy Horse, which was good. Just as good as the rest of the series. I don't think it's my favorite. I think Killing England is probably my favorite. That one's the one where it's, how the American Revolution started and following a couple characters as they go through their story within that. But this was still good. It was following Custer and Crazy Horse, who are about the same age and, kind of arch enemies. Very much that same sort of structure as Smiley and Karla. It was a good book. I definitely recommend this series. This is the Killing series by Bill O'Reilly. If you like the idea of reading history, but they're just too dry and boring for you, this series is written like novels. So it's a story arc, not throwing all the facts at you all at once. So you're following a couple characters through a plot that just happens to be one of the many available plots that's available through that history. So instead of having to learn all of the U.S. Indian Wars, you can just do Killing Crazy Horse, and you're following two men and just enough background so that you can follow the story and know what's going on and what it means. But you don't have to know all the names and dates and places for all the other stuff that's also going on at the same time. So, highly recommend. Good series. They are well researched and they track with what I already know about the stories I've read. I read a lot of history and I've studied a lot of history. So, it would stick out if he was making stuff up or using questionable sources. So, good series. And then I did another series, or started trying out another series that's continuing somebody else's work. These are new Lord Peter Wimsey and Harriet Vane mysteries by Jill Paton Walsh. She's been doing this for a little while. I just hadn't heard of them. So I tried two. The Attenbury Emeralds, which was okay. It reminded me a bit of a Hercule Poirot plot, and really kind of felt recycled. So, I don't know. I read a lot more murder mysteries than some, but I think a lot of people that read murder mysteries binge them. So, I'm going to try a few more, and see if any of them really stick out as creative, new, or exciting, or fresh takes on stories I've already read, because guaranteed they're going to be similar. The Late Scholar was okay. It was academia murder. But again, it didn't really stand out particularly, so I don't know. I'm more sold on the continuation of Le Carré than I am on these. They're more just something to keep you busy and occupied for an afternoon, and then, you move on to the next book, which is not bad. And, there are reasons to want books like that are not going to linger and distract you from what you're doing and, be something you dream about. Some literary fiction is too memorable, and sometimes you just want something that you can read and move on. So, not saying they're bad, but I am saying that they were easy to forget about afterwards. All it takes for these ones is still to look at the synopsis like, oh, yeah, okay, that's that one. They're not that unmemorable. There are some where even reading the synopsis, you're like, I know I read this, but it's still not clicking any bells. Clicking any bells? Anyway. Then the last print book I have in my stack is the giant nonfiction that I finished during Dewey's, The Bully Pulpit by Doris Kearns Goodwin. This one was really good. I can see why Goodwin is well respected as a historian. And it also was good points. I don't remember if I was using it for something where it ended up being good points. I may have just used it for something to get any points. But it's a 900-some page book. I did immersive reading for it somewhat, so I did pull up the audiobook, and some of the chapters I did audio for. And it was good too. I do recommend both. And yeah, so that's one giant fat book that I am done with. And I am going to try and finish some more giant fat books in the rest of this year. So some of what I finished besides arcs, even, during November, may include at least one fat book, because I would like to finish some. So we'll see. So I'm going to show off just a couple more books, ones that I've acquired that I'm excited about. And then I'm going to let you guys go because it's NetGalley November and we all have arcs to read. But let me grab a couple more books just to show you guys because it's show and tell time. And then we'll be done. Hold on just a sec. Okay. I'm back. Oh, and I did have one other series I totally forgot that I finished because it ended up on a different stack. So the Apothecary Rose book and the next two after that. So, the Something Nun and the other one. I finished 3 Candace Robb books, I'll put it that way. And I have a couple more that I either have as an audiobook or in print. And then I do have another Candace Robb book from the Owen Archer series, which is what this is, that's on my NetGalley. So that's another series that I probably will have more non-arc books finished during NetGalley November to get to that arc. So yeah, there's that one. So I got a couple other cool books in the last week or so that I'm going to show off. So this one by Robert Harris. Harris wrote Precipice that I listened to as an audiobook a couple weeks ago, and I really liked that one. So this one was on a free cart, a sticker from the free cart, so I adopted it. This one's one I got for a 6 hour, so I worked 6 hours and got to pick a book. This is All Our Names by Dinao Mengistu, which I got because I have another book by him called The Beautiful Things That Heaven Bears, which I think is more of a memoir, but yeah, he's one that I'm pretty sure he's been nominated for something at the very least. It might have been All Our Names. But he's one that I remembered the name of the author, that was something exciting. And the one I already had, I got from a free cart like 2 months ago. So now I have All Our Names, which I think is the one that was on a prize list. Anyway. So that's one I picked out explicitly. This one's one that I was excited to be able to adopt. Sherlock Holmes in Orbit. So it's one of those themed short story collections where a bunch of different authors write a story for the collection. So this one I will be reading for sure in the near future. And then I also today adopted The Long Winter by John Christopher. I love John Christopher's Tripod series. Those were some of my favorite books in grade school. And I actually found 2 of the 3 in the bag of books sale. So I also have something about grass. Anyway, so I have another book by him that's not in that series. And now I think this one's also not in that series. It says nothing about tripods. So That was exciting. Not an author most people have heard about unless they're my age and read sci-fi when they were a kid. But cool author. This one's one I adopted that it takes place in one day. It's translated and it's set in Munich. So I'm guessing it's translated from the German. It's called Pigeons on the Grass by Wolfgang Keppen. So, there we go. Yay! There's always prompts for a book that takes place in one day. Right now, actually, the NetGalley November, there's a prompt for technically an arc. But if I can't find an arc that takes place in one day, if I can't, that's saying something because I still have 300 some arcs. But I do have a fallback. So these I was able to adopt. Some of the people I work with don't take home books for their 6 hours because they don't really want more books right now, which to me is just such a foreign concept. But a couple of my friends are like that. They're like, we have too many books. We don't need more. So they let me use theirs so I could adopt this duology that was lurking in a shelf they didn't belong in. They've been in the store for about 3 years without anyone wanting them. They're brand new. I think it's because they were shelved in a place they shouldn't have been. Because they're sci-fi. They're alternate history of space flight. And it's called the Lady Astronauts novels. So it's a duology. I don't know if it goes beyond a duology, if it got longer since, but the back of the books suggests it's just a duology. So these are by Mary Robinette Kowal. They're called The Calculating Stars and the Faded Sky. So I was excited because those sound really cool. And they're nice and shiny and brand new, which is always fun when you work in a used bookstore. And then these two I already had. These are part of a quartet by Elena Ferrante. I already had My Brilliant Friend, which is book 1, and Those Who Leave and Those Who Stay, which is book 3. But I always forget which ones I have and which ones I don't. So we actually had all 4 books at the bookstore this week. So yesterday I made a point when I got home of noting exactly what I already have so that I could pick 2 books for my 2 6 hours for this week that are my official 6 hours, not using somebody else's, and actually get the rest of the series. So now I have The Story of a New Name. This is book 2. And The Story of a Lost Child, which is book 4. So that's a series I will be trying to read possibly next year. If you have been meaning to read the Elena Ferrante Quartet, then maybe we should do a buddy read next year, reading this quartet. It's called the Neapolitan Quartet. So if you are interested in reading the Neapolitan novels with me, let me know, because that's something that I definitely want to get to now that I finally have the entire series. I've been told they're really good, so I'm going to try and not have too high of expectations, but it might be a good buddy read. Anyway, so those are just some of the books I've acquired recently that I was excited about. And I'll probably do some show and tell in my next few updates as well, so I can show off some of my pretty books that I've brought home. And yeah, especially because a lot of my next updates are going to be mostly me talking about things I can't show you. I did read a bunch of books that were not things I could show, and I'll put them in the description So you can see all the books I finished in October. But I don't have them in print, and yeah, it's going to be a long video if I have to list them all off. I'll put it that way. But there were some really good arcs, and I will talk about them when I talk about my first week of NetGalley November, because I was gearing up for NetGalley November when I was reading those. So that way it'll be like arcs all in one thing. Yeah. So I will see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you guys are having a great reading weekend so far, or a reading week if you're watching this later. And I will catch you in the next video, or on Sprint somewhere, or somewhere in the bookish world online. Bye, guys!